Hello everyone! So now that December is officially over, I can talk about the books I read in December of 2017. The first book that I finished was the second book in the His Dark Materials series, which is The Subtle Knife. And this one I liked the least out of the three books, as I think I said in my favorites of 2017 video, and I rated it 4 stars, so I still did really enjoy it. And the next book I finished was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This one I had been reading for a very long time because the majority of it was read online on a website I have access to through my work. So sometimes when it was really slow and there was nothing to do, I would read a little bit of this book. But I do also have this beautiful Puffin and Bloom edition designed by Anna Bond of Rifle Paper Company. I can't remember if I read this book when I was younger or not, but I have read at least one of the books in the series, and I think that was Anne of Windy Poplars. But I have seen many adaptations of it, although not the most recent Netflix adaptation. And I have seen the very popular web series that was here on YouTube a couple years ago. I rated this 4 stars, but maybe it's more like a 4.5 star rating. I do have a review up on Goodreads with more of my thoughts if you'd like to read that. And then I finished the last book in this series, which was The Amber Spyglass. And this one was my second favorite from the trilogy. And I felt like the beginning really brought back some of that magic that I had felt in the first book. And I still rated the third one 4 stars, but overall I think it's just a really enjoyable series, and I'm really glad that I've read it now. After I finished reading it, I requested the 2 companion books from the series at my library, and one of them came really quickly because it was available at one of the branches. So that was Once Upon a Time in the North, and unfortunately the only edition of this available was an audiobook. So I listened to it on audio, and I've kind of talked a little bit about it in the past, but I don't do well with audiobooks because I am just a visual reader and I pay attention better when I'm using my eyes rather than my ears to read. And when I'm listening, my mind just wanders and I lose track, and I don't feel like going back to the last place where I was paying attention in the audiobook. And that did happen with this book, so I missed a large chunk of it even though it's a short story, and therefore I didn't give it a rating on Goodreads because it was hard to put into context how I felt about it with the rest of the book because it was just such a different experience for me. My favorite thing about the His Dark Materials world is definitely Lyra, so I love anything that is centered around Lyra, and she wasn't really in this book. I think there was like an extra little bit where she was talking at the end, but if Lyra's in it, I'm gonna love it, and if she's not, I probably won't like it as much. The next book that I finished was Broke Millennial, and this is actually a nonfiction book, which I don't read very often, but one of the channels that I watch here on YouTube is The Financial Diet, and they had the author of this book on as a guest, and I was really intrigued and wanted to read the book, so I waited for it for actually quite a while at my library because someone turned it in at least 2 weeks late. And then I think someone found it in the library and checked it out, even though it was supposed to be on its way to me. But anyways, I have now since read the book, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really useful. And I'm not broke, but I am a millennial, and I am interested in becoming more financially literate. And some of the chapters I didn't really need because I already was practicing the strategies presented in those chapters, but some of it was really unfamiliar to me, and I felt that it was really great at teaching you what you need to know in a friendly, welcoming format. It is designed for a millennial to read, so there are different references in there that older people might not necessarily get. And it definitely has spurred some changes in my financial life. So that's great. I rated Brooke Millennial 5 stars. The next book was Jane Eyre, and I had put up a poll on my Instagram to decide between Jane Eyre and the Outlandish Companion book for which I should read. The Outlandish Companion was another big book on my shelf I haven't gotten to yet, and Jane Eyre, while also a fairly big book, was a reread. So Jane Eyre, I actually don't remember if it won, but it won in my heart, and that's where it counted. So I reread Jane Eyre and I really loved it, and I do actually think it was one of my favorite reads of 2017, although I didn't include it in that video. But now that I have seen several adaptations of it, including another web series here on YouTube, and I've read Rebecca, which has some similar themes, I just really enjoyed it, and I had forgotten a lot of the details and a lot of the writing style, and it was just really beautifully written, and I think it's definitely in my top 10 favorite books of all time. Oh, I have the book. I could just show you the book. Maybe I showed you this in an earlier video, but whatever. This is the cloth-bound Penguin Classics that is illustrated by Coralie Bickford-Smith, and I just really love these editions because they are so beautiful. The only issue I encountered that I hadn't realized before was that if you read this in a cold apartment with a fuzzy blanket, the book will collect lint, and you basically have to lint roll it. So that's one downside to these. But overall, I still do really love these editions. And the last book was kind of a fortunate surprise. After I finished Anne of Green Gables, I kind of poked around to see what other books were available on that reading platform, which was Tumble Book Cloud. And in their middle grade section, they had Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman. And I thought it would actually take longer to finish, but it was such a slow week that I got through it really quickly, and it is just a really short book with lots of illustrations, so I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was so cute and clever and just a really fun read, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I had all my reading for December done by, I think, Friday or Saturday, so I had Sunday to just kind of relax and not worry about having to finish off books before the new year. And if you follow me on Goodreads, you know I've already read several books since the beginning of 2018, and I have been really enjoying it. So that was my December in reading. It was definitely a good month to finish off the year with. Let me know what you've been reading lately, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.